I love that.
You guys are doing a walk out together. We're doing a phone call.
It's like one of my
Is it still on the phone?
Yeah.
Yeah, I said hi, bye, yeah.
Just that we support. Actually say that because it's not rationale. For the such thing, we have no rationale for doing everything from your hands up and those I support. Just out
with whatever you do.
Like you say now. We haven't finished the one.
frankly, that did horrific, terrible things.
Keep my mind.
That's the thing. You gotta draw a line somewhere.
I know, we all have to.
We didn't get that, so they didn't. Okay. I think so maybe they're trying to look at
I think you found there's a coffee. There's a residue sauce. Wait, he had passed by his name. Proud discuss. Wear him like a badge of honor. We should show her your health.
Who are we waiting on, Sam? Yeah, the chairman. Video news were shown. Oh, outside the floor, somebody else's responsibility.
There's this big and you can get them in gold for 75 cents and 7-Eleven. I know Eric got soda and I'm like, their volleyball practice come with Eric drinking. Golf was twice the size of the human stomach. Shops and restaurants and stuff.
You all know what country's gonna go to college? Everybody likes the smart.
Senator Sasson, April Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh my God. Great. Senator Harrell, were you here first?
I was here first, but she signed up first.
Who signed it?
I'm gonna let you go because apparently I'm on my bill jacket.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Senator Young. All right, Senator Ham. All right. This is, you want to explain your qualified, education loan services?
Yes, this is Senate Bill 362. Let me give you a little bit of history on this bill. 3 years ago, I put in a bill for student loan authority. You actually saw one of those this year, decided against it. But what we did with that bill is we asked Virginia 529, Chev, and the Treasury to look at various options to figure out how we could best help our student loan borrowers in Virginia. And they came back with a very thorough report and suggested, among other things, licensing the servicers. So last year I put in a bill to license the servicers. And it got out of the Senate with no problem at all. But we started hearing from the SEC that they had some concerns about the drafting. So we worked extensively with them to answer all of their concerns. They never speak for or against the bill, but I think they're prepared to say they have no problems with this bill. And so it went to the House, and the day that we had finally finalized all of the changes was the day it was in front of committee, and they felt they didn't have time. So that's why we're back with it. I think it's in as good a shape as we're gonna get a bill, and I hope you will approve it.
Okay, it will have to go to ultimately the Senate Finance.
Yeah.
And they requested the bill. So, is there anyone here to speak from the colleges on behalf, or the administration on behalf of the bill? Fran?
Mr. Chairman, good afternoon. Fran Bradford, Deputy Secretary of Education, and I echo what Senator Howe said. We're very grateful for her efforts to carry the bill, and the administration is very supportive of this effort, and believes that it will increase some protection for Virginia student loan borrowers, among other things. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jerica Gutman from Virginia 21. We're in support of this bill as it will protect students from predatory lending practices.
All right,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to hear from the flagship University, Old Dominion.
Elizabeth Kersey, Old Dominion University, we do support this bill as well.
okay. All right, Senator Chase for the motion.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay. I actually have a question. It talks about a nationwide multi-state licensing system and registry. And then the registry is created by the Conference of State Bank Supervisors and the American Association of Residential Mortgage Regulators. So, I mean, is that a misprint, or you can have the same registry that we use for residential mortgages for education loan servicers? This is lines 18 through 20.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak to that?
Sure.
Joe Face, Commissioner of Financial Institutions with the State Corporation Commission. Senator, that language was included because the National Mortgage Licensing System, which was originally set up as a database for mortgage brokers and lenders, has now been expanded to include other non-depository institutions, such as payday lenders, consumer finance companies, and so forth. And the language is in there so that these new entities that we will regulate will be able to register and be regulated through that system. It's an online application regulatory system that enables us, state regulators across the country, to monitor the institutions that we regulate.
Okay.
Does that help?
Sure. Further question?
Senator Peterson.
All right. If, let's say, you take out a loan now, let's say you take out a loan for $40,000, and the loan is then refinanced through, will be Sally Mae, or who would be the refinancing mechanism? Mr. Face, I'm looking at you.
Yes, sir, Senator. I don't know that I can answer that question. I'm not an expert in student loans,
Okay,
per
well,
se.
Can I assume, Mr. Chair, that most student debt is refinanced at some point through the federal government? Not necessarily.
Yeah, no, I think, the senator's right. It can be federal loans, can be private loans, and there are some private loan companies that this would actually have a positive impact on in terms of their relationship with the students and parents.
Okay, well, let me get to my question, and whether it's refinanced or whether it's the original lender. How do we get the word out to them that if we pass this, that they're now subject to this law? Because I assume it will be.
Mr. Chairman, I think there's a distinction we need, we're talking only about the servicers.
Well, I know that.
Not the lenders.
Right, but even the service, I understand the
Okay.
services are separate from the lenders, but how do we, and let's say we have 50,000 active loans out there with 10,000, I don't know, however many, how do we get the word out to people to let them know that?
I would assume it gets out the same way, that it goes out to lawyers, beer wholesalers, and everybody else. Somebody with an association gets the word out to that group.
Okay.
I mean, we're not responsible for, you know, being a PR outfit on every bill that we pass.
Mr. Chairman, a question for Mr. Face. Mr. Face, do bankers and so forth have continuing education requirements?
Bankers for student
Like
loans.
CGEs and my wife's in the insurance business,
Mhm.
okay? She has to take continuing education so many hours each year.
Right.
Is that common in the industry, in the lending industry? Just a question.
Is continuing education, there are seminars, so forth,
It's not-
constantly. The Virginia Bankers Association, American Bankers Association,
Okay, all right, thank you.
Conference of State Bank Supervisors. Yes, sir.
Sure.
I think what this bill is doing is it's saying that if you're gonna lend money, then you have to go to the state corporation commission, so that, I don't think there's any disclosure or anything that's involved, it's just, if you're gonna be a loan servicer, then you go to the state corporation commission and you have to follow this procedure, and then that,
You can do that on your own.
and so the students automatically are going to be protected, because if you're going to be a loan provider or servicer, then they're already vetted for the student, because they came in with the license, because they're going through the licensing process. And the student would already be protected.
I'll second the motion to report and vote on this.
All right, all those in favor of reporting, SB 362, recommending the committee that be reported and referred to finance, say aye.
Senator Black was,
I'm gonna go abstain, I'm gonna just do it.
All right, so it's,
Senator Black was aye.
so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 ayes and 1 abstention.
Mr. Chairman, 5 ayes.
Or one abstention.
Can you be more direct?
Okay, Senator Donovan, let me just tell you, before we get to Senator Donovan, you have Senate Bill 631, the recommendation received, although not from, I want to tell you not from the sponsors, is that you can roll 631, remember, looks like 77 and 107 are pretty much identical bills. You can roll 77 and 107 into Senator Donovan's 631, which the Senate Finance Committee has also requested.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we're rolling Senate Bill 6. Sure.
I would be in favor of keeping them separately, just so that we can hear each of the bills individually and then maybe decide.
Well, 2 of them are identical. No, not her bill. The 77 and 107
Okay, I'm sorry.
look to be identical.
I apologize.
Mr. Chairman, they had hoped they could pull their bills together and share them and stay separate from mine until
Stay separate.
finance considered this.
Okay.
Fine, I withdraw my motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right, that's fine. Okay, all right, Senator Donovan, transmit.
Okay,
Tell us about your bill.
this bill 631 is a bill that is, the result of looking at higher ed and some of the challenges we've had over the past few years that looked at cost and alternative pathways to get to higher ed. It This takes it a step further, where it actually gets the community colleges to align and become very reliable and interchangeable. In other words, the curriculum at the community colleges would be centralized and similar, and it would of course
For a
have regional.
4 year education.
2 years, just the community colleges.
No, it would be similar to what?
Other community
Other
colleges.
community.
So the other community colleges, so that if a student was taking classes at different community colleges, it would be a highly reliable organization, same input, same output. In addition to that, we would set up a set of credits. Right now it's 15, it might evolve to 30. We have some language in the code. One is the passport language for 15 credits, the other is the core curriculum for 30. But essentially, those classes would be universalized between all the community colleges. They would be considered core curriculum, and there's already a group that's meeting through SHED, that's the higher ed, to make sure that those are also universally accepted by the 4-year institutions. So, that's kind of the nutshell, is to standardize our community colleges and make them a highly reliable organization. Some additional attributes to this bill are that there would be a single portal to get into the community colleges. They've already developed this portal, there's a budget amendment that goes with that, so this would have to go to finance. But that's the portal that they're using now to make sure that veterans get credit for the experience that they have. And it's a fairly sophisticated way to get in and figure out what's available. There'd also be some mapping for 4-year institutions. So for transparency's sake, if kids wanted to know, how do I get a journalism degree from UVA, what can I take at the community college that will actually count? Then you would be able to follow the mapping that would be on that portal, and you would realize you may not be able to take the whole core curriculum set, because you may need to take some specific things like your English at UVA, or for instance, tech, you might have to take your science and math at tech. So the mapping, all of this will fit together to create a much higher level of transparency, decrease the amount of repeated credits, decrease the cost, and hopefully by the end of time, one of the disturbing pieces of data that we had as we've been working through this higher ed is that many kids who spend 2 years at a community college still spend time at higher ed. So we're trying to make sure we streamline this and reduce it. The last piece of that, I'm almost done, I promise, is that this affects dual enrollment too. The community colleges are the ones that administer the dual enrollment programs and determine the acceptance of the credits for higher ed and also verify the quality. And by standardizing the community colleges, we will be focusing that onto dual enrollment to standardize that process across the Commonwealth, and also emphasize the core curriculum credits in dual enrollment. We found out in a JLARC study this summer that there are a lot of high schools that, with the best intent, have developed a lot of dual enrollment courses that we are paying in addition to our regular K-12 costs to help offset the cost of the dual enrollment cost. And they don't translate to any class that's at the community college or to 4 years, so there's kind of superfluous credit. There's just not an efficient way for us to use the system or ensure that a dual enrollment class you take actually is gonna get you towards your degree. So, there's one amendment that I would propose, it's actually in my bag, that gives, VMI has struggled with this last year, since we talked about passport, because they have such a unique experience, and you really can't take 15 credits or 2 years and go to VMI, because it's not about the credits, it's about the experience. Thank you so much. So there's an amendment that I would propose for that I'll pass over to council. And other than that, we've worked really hard with SHEV and the community college system in the 4 years to get this into a form that people can buy into. It's a little uncomfortable for everybody, but they all get the goal and are on board, and so I'm happy to hear from you.
Okay, well, you want to report the amendment?
I move it. Sorry.
What's the
Here
amendment do?
Mr. Chairman, it would be, on after line 245, just insert a new subsection that says, the provisions of this section shall not apply to any public institution of higher education established pursuant to chapter 25.
Or just this, the
Or-
provisions, yeah.
Or VMI.
Okay, I would assume that most of the curriculum that you'd be talking about would be non-science and math.
Well, there might be some science and math. It might be the 4 big ones,
You know,
English
that's
language,
cool.
science and math in community college,
Oh.
but also in dual enrollment. But I think that, VMI does accept community college credits. I think the core curriculum and having it universally approved by the 4-year universities is something There are community colleges that we can rely that the students that complete that program can perform in our higher level classes, and there are others that can't. There is some data exchange in this so that the 2 years can get back their own data and find out how their students are performing. But we've gotta make that, we have such a tremendous, highly regarded, diversified higher education system. We have to have a foundation on that that is highly reliable, and that's a community college system. And that, we don't need that to be diverse, we don't need that, we need it to be regionally specific, but we need it to be consistent. And that's the goal of this bill.
Right. Anyone out there in the audience with any comments? No?
Yes, ma'am. May I proxy while you're hearing comments?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ellen Danforth with the Community College System. As Senator Donovan mentioned, we've been working with her on this for months, and we appreciate her attention to it. Her bill does set up the passport as 15 credits that's automatically transferable, and also
Transferable from where?
transferable from the community college to the 4-year, and some of that could be dual enrollment, as well as a uniform certificate of general studies. The passport would be 15 credits within that, and
Is that dual enrollment with respect to the 4-year or the high school?
dual
Which
enrollment
dual
from high
enrollment
school,
are you talking
or it
about?
could be a class that was taken in the community college. So anyway, her bill is very comprehensive. As she mentioned, it does have, the portal attached to it, and that does have a budget implication.
Right.
And as far as, Senate Bill 77 and 107, those refer to universal transfer courses, which really are not the same as dual enrollment courses. And they really should probably be, the bills need to probably be combined.
You're talking about when we get to Sturman and
Yes, sir.
Sealine's bills, they should be, yeah, they appear to be almost identical bills.
But they shouldn't be on a separate track from Senator Donovan's bill. I believe that they should be
Combined
folded
with
into Senator
Senator
Donovan's bill.
Donovan's. All right, well, they would prefer not to do that, at least at this point. All right, and what about the, Mindy?
Thank you, Chairman, members of the subcommittee. Mindy Carlin, representing the Northern Virginia Chamber of Partnership. We are very supportive of efforts to standardize, particularly the dual enrollment piece, to ensure consistency, quality, and streamline, as we really are working to ensure that we're preparing our kids as best to enter the workforce efficiently and affordably. So, urge your support.
Anyone else? Yes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Beverly Covington with Chev. Chev has been working with Senator Donovan on this, and appreciate her attention to all the details of it. We think these ideas will lead to enhanced on-time completion and affordability for students in higher ed. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, my name is Kim McKay. I'm the Director of Public Policy for the Virginia Chamber of Commerce, and we support this effort to bring consistency across the system as we prepare kids and try to get them into the workforce. And thank you.
All right,
Mr. Chairman, question.
Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you. Senator Donovan, did this come from any working group or committee, subcommittee?
Indirectly, a lot of this information came from reports we received at the Joint Commission for the Future Competitiveness of Higher Education. That really was just kind of crossing between.
What about some UVA in the back? Do you all have any comments? None? Okay. All right, we need a motion to report to the full committee, and with the recommendation also that it go to Senate Finance.
I moved to report and.
I'll second that. All those any discussion? All right, all those in favor of reporting to the full committee, recommending reporting to the full committee with a referral to Senate Finance, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, all right.
Senator Black, I have a question.
Okay, so that's 5-0. Okay,
Mr.
you
Chairman.
bet.
And committee.
Senator Sturman, you're up.
Oh, you want it?
Good afternoon. Senator Sealine, appear to have pretty much identical bills.
That's my understanding, and they are identical to Steve Landis's bill in the House.
Cheers.
No, this, yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to roll Senate Bill 107
Into 77, policy was lower number.
Okay,
Okay, all those in favor of enrolling 107, 77, say aye.
It'll be integrated.
Right, tell us about your bill.
77? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure Senator Sullivan explained it well, but, okay. So, Senate Bill 77, members of the committee, is a bill to deal with the fact that we've got a great dual enrollment program in Virginia and have for many, many years. The challenge that we have seen is that not every Virginia public college or university necessarily accepts dual enrollment credits that a high school student earns. That a high school student earns. So if you go to, in my district, if you go to Midlothian High School and you take Economics 101, UVA may accept those dual enrollment credits, but Virginia Tech may not. JNU may, Christopher Newport may not. The problem is when you're a junior or senior in high school taking these dual enrollment courses, you oftentimes don't know where you're going to college. And so you're putting in the good work, and it's good to get that that level of higher education while you're in high school. But we also want, this is an opportunity for these kids to save some money when they do go to college by banking away some college credits ahead of time.
In high school.
Correct. So what this bill does is it essentially gets all the colleges and universities in the same room and to develop some quality standards to make sure that courses that are being offered meet the level of quality that they want for the credits to be accepted, and develops these universal transfer course credits so that you know as a high school student on the front end when you're taking an approved course that regardless of what public college you go to, those credits will be accepted should you score high enough in taking a course. So that's really the thrust of the bill.
And you can, so under this, the colleges would have to accept it, or they would make a decision on what they're gonna accept?
Correct. They would
The
make-
colleges would.
All together, yes.
Right. And if they couldn't agree?
We'd probably have to come back here and deal with that again next year.
All right, questions by the committee?
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to say that, this is a great program. My daughter actually finished high school in she finished high school in 4 years, but finished college in 3 years, thanks to dual enrollment through Chesterfield County Public Schools. And, it's been great for our family. She's now in PA school and getting straight A's there, so I like dual enrollment. It saves our family probably $20,000, so it's great.
And, all right.
I got a question.
Senator Peters.
How do you, I mean, who's in charge, for lack of a better term, sort of the quality control or basically making sure, because economics is a good example. I can take economics in high school all day long, but if I take it in college, it's a different, it's a different level. It just is.
Well, and so if you're taking economics in high school, yes, I think that's right. But with the dual enrollment program, however, there is an understanding that it is going to be a higher level of curriculum. And that's part of what this bill does, is to establish those quality standards for those dual enrollment courses. And so that includes, if you look at the bill, it includes quality standards for course instructors, materials, and content. And that's to ensure that if the colleges are going to accept the dual enrollment credit, it meets their standards for a college level course, which is really what dual enrollment is meant to be, and why college credits are offered for it. But this bill, with the help of the colleges, will I think better ensure that the courses that are offered and taken meet the high standards that we want our colleges to have.
Chairman, just a quick comment on that, just because I've seen how this has worked. But many times, the same professor that teaches at the local community college is the same professor that's teaching the dual enrollment in the high school. So many times it's the same exact teacher.
Okay, let's hear from higher ed.
Can you hear from me first? Ellen Davenport with the Community College System. We do support the bill, and just a little bit of history for you all. In 2012, legislation passed that made every school division have to have an agreement with their jurisdictional community college to begin offering dual enrollment and offer an associate degree. Prior to that time, it was mostly in rural areas and economically distressed areas of the state. It was almost not in Northern Virginia at all, so that had to be implemented by 2014, and so we've had a quick rollout of dual enrollment around the state, and so it kind of got ahead of itself with regard to standardization, just because every school superintendent could have a separate agreement with its own community college. So that is kind of how we ended up where we are now. And the JLARC report on the community college system that came out last fall did have 5 recommendations dealing with transferability of dual enrollment credit and trying to make that more consistent, because as Senator Sturman said, there are stories about students who believe that the dual enrollment classes that they're taking in high school will definitely transfer to a 4-year university, and that's not always the case.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the subcommittee. Mindy Carlin again with the Northern Virginia Chamber Partnership, and definitely supportive of the legislation and effort to continue to improve our dual enrollment policy across Virginia.
Okay,
Afternoon, Beverly Covington with Chev.
What's your name?
Beverly Covington.
Okay.
With Chev. Senator correctly described some of the work that's been going on with Chev. We already have a work group working on dual enrollment issues, and segueing from Ellen's comment, I think some of the institutions might have questioned the quality of these courses, and so the work group has been in agreement that if there could be some standards in place, they'd be more readily accepted. So I think this is a good addition.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Kim McKay, Virginia Chamber, we support this legislation.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Jerica Gutman, Virginia 21. We support this legislation as a continued pathway of making college more affordable.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Ben Kaiser. I'm the Executive Director of the Virginia Association of School Superintendents, and we certainly support the bill, and I look forward to working with Chev and BCCS.
okay, I think we've heard enough. Any more questions about committee members? All right, we need a motion that will send 107, that's enrollment for 7 to 7 to the full committee with a recommendation that be reported and re-referred to finance.
I move to report
All right.
and re-refer to finance.
I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so it's 3 or 5. Yeah, but now Black can't vote on this because, so it's 4 to 0. Okay. To SFC. Okay. Senator Sterling, you have one of the 747.
747 deals with the guaranteed admissions agreements that we have in Virginia. Right now we have a phenomenal program where if a high school graduate goes to a community college and earns their associate's degree and graduates with a sufficiently high GPA, as I understand it, that is different depending on the 4-year institution that they decide to go to. But if you do well enough, earn your associate's degree at community college, you then have a guaranteed admission to any Virginia 4-year college and university of your choice. And that is a phenomenal program. It's been a wonderful thing, I think, for community colleges. And again, it's a helpful way for a lot of families to be able to affordably put their kids and put themselves through college. This bill is also related to dual enrollment in the sense that we have more and more students who have access to lots of dual enrollment opportunities while they are in high school. And over the years, as more and more dual enrollment courses have been offered, you have in some instances situations where a high school student at least has the ability to go and earn their associate's degree while they're still in high school. And so you could have a student who walks across the stage on Friday and gets their high school diploma and also is getting their associate's degree at the same time. This bill would not mandate guaranteed admission to those students to any public college in Virginia, but it would make it permissive such that the community college that offers the that partners with the public high school that is offering those dual enrollment courses, where that student, high school student, earned their associate's degree. If that community college, in their guaranteed admission agreement with a four-year college, it allows them to have guaranteed admission for those high school students. So again, if you're a high school student, you earn your associate's degree while in high school, this at least allows for the potential that you can have guaranteed admission to a four-year
Who
public college.
guarantees it?
The college does, in its agreement with the community college.
Are there any of those agreements in existence?
I don't know.
Okay. Out of curiosity, is there anybody in here that can tell me what percentage of high school kids are involved in dual enrollment with community colleges? Anybody got any idea? Nobody has any idea?
I can tell you the number of them, but not the percentage.
What's the number?
So it's about 9,000 students right now.
And how many students are there, because I'll divide that by
In our whole
12, how many
system?
students are there public school about? We got
1.3 million.
two-
About 1.3 million.
1.3 million, that's what I thought. Yeah,
So it's about 100,000 per grade, yeah.
So, yeah, so.
About 9% of high school students.
Yeah, well, if you take 11th and 12th, it would be, about 4.5–5%, okay.
Okay, I got a couple of questions.
Sure, Senator Peterson.
How, now, it's one thing if you dual enroll and you take a couple classes at Nova, or John Tyler, or wherever you want. But you're talking about getting an associate's degree in addition to getting your high school degree.
That's exactly right.
That's not easy.
It's not.
I mean, how many kids have done that?
So, the numbers that my office was able to get, and this is just for Chesterfield, which is my district, Chesterfield has less than 10 students graduating with dual enrollment associate's degrees per year. Some kids are doing it. Some kids are putting in the time and the effort to go and earn their associate's degree while they're still in high school. And as you can tell, it's not gonna be a lot of kids per year across the state. But if there are other kids that we wanted to make sure we're keeping in Virginia schools,
Right.
it's these kids, and this is an incentive to keep them there.
Okay, just a follow-up question.
Senator Peterson.
And these kids are gonna be pretty high achieving kids.
Absolutely.
I mean, listen, I got 3 teenagers in my house, okay? Just trying to get 1 degree. Those kids, I mean, what you're really saying is that they would be able to walk into UVA or Tech or William & Mary as effectively a third year, a junior.
That's exactly right.
Okay. What about, and I have a daughter who's a first year at UVA, what about the whole experience of being a first year dorms? The whole first year experience, first year required classes.
Sure.
How do you do that, and still have a major and everything else?
And that's why I think that the benefit to this is, as I understand it, and I'll be corrected if I'm incorrect, I hope I will be corrected, is that each of the community colleges has an agreement with the colleges. Is that fair?
Right, and some have multiple ones, like, for example, if you want to go to engineering, that's a separate agreement than a general studies type of thing.
Right, so there's lots of agreements that the community colleges have with four-year institutions, and that this would just be another component of that. Before, Virginia Tech could say, no, we're not gonna allow this. UVA could say, yeah, we'll allow it for computer science students who went to Nova. But they still have to take, the required freshman
As
classes.
far as I know, the only high school in Virginia with science labs that match the colleges not exceed them is at the science high school in Fairfax.
And that is something that.
Because I remember Christine told me that the labs at Thomas Jefferson are better equipped than the labs at UVA.
It's a great high school. And this would account for all of those. It would ultimately leave it up to the institutions to work it out among themselves for what is the right mix for them.
Anybody else from higher ed want to comment one way or another?
Hi, Ashley Hood with the University of Virginia, and I thank the patron for spending some time sitting down and working with us on this
week or two ago. We do have some concerns with the legislation, even though the language is permissive as written. Guaranteed admissions agreements were intended for true transfer applicants, students who had completed an associate's degree with the appropriate courses and met certain requirements, like 24 credits of post-secondary coursework not taken via dual enrollment and is 1 year removed from the completion of secondary level education. So we're concerned that if this bill was mandatory instead of permissive, it would create somewhat of a backdoor admissions route so that students with an associate's degree could get into our institutions with the GPA that we require through our guaranteed admissions agreement, which at the University of Virginia is a 3.4, as opposed to students that apply as regular first years. They tend to have more than a 4.0 GPA average. So we're concerned as to how that just generally affects our incoming first year
I've got a
freshman class.
suggestion, but I'll leave it as, we can go ahead and do it, I mean, anybody can do it. Ashley, is there an amendment that you all would like to draw up, which would give you a greater comfort level with this bill, even though the bill, as currently stated, is permissive? Is there an amendment?
I don't have any language at this time.
Well,
I know we
you have
saw
a
this
week.
language, last year. The senator had a bill that had similar language, but it was mandatory and not permissive. So this is, for us, more palatable, but we don't have an amendment or a substitute at this time that would.
No, I know that, but you got a week to prepare one, that's what I'm saying. And what my suggestion would be, that if you could, during the next 7 days, draw up an amendment which would give you a greater comfort level, and then offer it to the committee and see if the committee accepts it.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Is that okay?
We're happy to take a look at it.
Okay, Senator Peterson.
Yeah, and I'm gonna throw a bucket of cold water over Senator Sturtevant, but to me, dual admission and guaranteed admission, those are dual enrollment and guaranteed admission, they're two severable programs. They're both great programs, but they're severable programs, and I think this is kinda like, we're trying to put them together, but they're trying to accomplish different things. Dual enrollment is taking kids that are bright high school kids and giving them a chance to get a head start, and as Amanda said, maybe, get through college a year early. Guaranteed admission is more, you get kids that are, into the college experience for the first time, maybe financially, they need a couple years to get on their feet, they go to a community college, and then they step into the university for a whole bunch of it. But I think we're trying to conflate two different things here, and so I'm probably not gonna be a fan of this bill if we do ever vote on it, for whatever that's worth.
Well, let's,
Mr. Chairman.
all right, let's hear, you have a motion?
I just have a quick comment. if that's
Okay,
okay.
sure.
Um,
Senator Chase.
generally, I'm in favor of this. I guess the only concern I have is just the, maturity of the person that would be graduating. Basically, they're gonna be put 2 years ahead with other people that are not similar in age. Now, that's by 2 years. I guess that is probably one of my only concerns at this point, but that's definitely something to take into consideration, just the maturity level.
Senator Peterson.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I don't wanna belabor this, and notwithstanding my love for Senator Sturtevant, my need for him on the basketball court in a couple weeks, I don't know if he got his bill.
I'm gonna second it. Let me tell you why. I think we're beginning, in the interest of expedience, we're beginning to get away from the college experience altogether. And I understand what you're trying to do. We've got dual enrollment, and I think we're making a mistake to totally, merge the two together. So I'm gonna second that. You come before the full committee, make a presentation, maybe you can draw up an amendment that might make this whole thing a little more amenable, don't know. But, okay, we're ready for a vote. All those in favor of recommending the committee that it be passed by, definitely say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm gonna no for John and myself.
Okay, so it's a 2-2 vote to either PBI, since he's not here to second the motion, can't move to recommend it and pass, so. All right, so it's, deadlock, 2-2 to DPI, okay.
Thank you.
All right, you back. Purdue. You were what kind of technician?
Alex, do you have my bill?
Oh, right, your license.
Essentially,
All right, tell me.
Now they are. Oh, guaranteed admissions. Yeah.
Yeah, that's. Right, yeah, I'm assuming, yeah. Yeah, they'll have to take it next week.
So it's nothing, so there's no recommendation.
Yeah.
Nicely done. Yeah, that was great. That's my. No, we did actually. We did talk to him about that. We don't like practice, right?
I suspect.
And then, okay.
Think that I can actually write?
I have a list of things.